Jimmy Johnson and Legacy Motor Club switching over to Toyota. Chase Elliott hoist for a comeback. Josh Berry taking the seat of Kevin Harvick. Let's talk about what we could see from certain NASCAR teams and drivers in 2024. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR in 2024, what we could see going into this new season. We're just 5 weeks away from the 2024 Great American Race, the Daytona 500. That means we're 3 weeks away from the Clash at the Coliseum, so NASCAR racing is definitely right around the corner and will be here very soon. But let's talk about some new drivers switching to different teams, a couple of drivers that we haven't seen in a few years. We have Jimmy Johnson coming back for a few races. We have John Hunter Nemechek racing in a Toyota for Legacy Motor Club, Jimmy Johnson's team. We have Josh Berry taking over the 4-car. Chase Elliott, who had an awful season last year, mainly due to injuries. Let's go ahead and get right on into it. And I want to start out by talking about Legacy Motor Club, because I talked about them in a video last year, a video similar to this. And that's a really interesting team for me, and I'm confident going into the season. There's a lot of new for Legacy Motor Club, so I don't know if this will quite be the breakout season for John Hunter Nemechek, who's now going to be driving the 42, for Eric Jones, or even Jimmy Johnson, who's going to be racing on a part-time schedule. But I do believe this will be the first step towards improvement, because the start of 2023 for Legacy Motor Club in those Chevrolets was very awful. It was not a lot of speed. Eric Jones not getting the results. Noah Gragson having one of the worst rookie seasons we've seen in quite some time from a driver standpoint for many of reasons, not just because of the race cars, and that's a story for another time. But I'm looking forward to this. I think this is the start of something good for Legacy Motor Club. I think we all knew that GM and Chevrolet was not quite giving Jimmy Johnson and Legacy Motor Club what they wanted. If they want to be a powerhouse team, if they want to be kind of like 2311 is a good example, they needed to switch to another manufacturer, and that was Toyota. They had they had good conversations. They were convinced that that was the right move to make on both ends, and now you're going to see that move over into 2024, and I'm excited for it. You have Eric Jones, a previous Toyota driver, did very well in Toyota in the lower series, Xfinity, won a Truck Series championship. So I'm excited to see what Eric Jones can do. I'm excited because Eric Jones was really fast last year at the end of the year after an awful start to the season. Missed the playoffs, but then you go into the playoffs where they were not participating in for the points, couldn't win the championship, couldn't advance to another round, but Eric Jones continued to put the work in. That entire team continued to put the work in and started getting way better results in a Chevrolet, even though they knew they were switching over to Toyota. So that wasn't a throwaway season for them, and I think that speaks a lot about Eric Jones. That speaks a lot about his character, and that speaks a lot about the culture of this team, because that shows that even when it isn't looking good, they're not going to give up. And you can look at this in every professional sports. That's always the beginning of a successful team moving forward. So I'm really excited to see what Jones can do. You have John Hunter Nemechek moving in the 42 car, who I believe raced, I think it was front row, was his rookie season in 2020. He raced the full year. That's the only full season he's raced. I think he's raced every race at Miami, which is kind of strange since 2019. But I also like John Hunter Nemechek. I like his attitude as well. I like the way he runs in the Xfinity Series. Had a fairly successful season or career in the Xfinity Series. I think it's time for him to move back up to Cup. I like his story, going up to Cup, then going back down to get a better opportunity. I think this is the best opportunity that he's going to have in the Cup Series, and I hope he can take advantage of it. His Cup Series season, his full-time season in 2020 was not disappointing. It was in Front Row Motorsports car, which obviously at that time was not a top-tier race car, top-tier race team, but he had solid runs, didn't get in a lot of wrecks, had solid finishes, finished in the top 20 a few times. I think he had 3 top 10s, finished 11th in the Daytona 500 in 2020, so some solid runs out of John Hunter Nemechek that year. Excited to see what he can do. But then you have the legend, 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson, who raced 4 races in 2023, will be racing at least 6 races in I read an article earlier, NBC Sports, at least 6 races for 2024 in 2024. I'll list those now, but we are expecting Jimmy Johnson to race even more than 6 races, which is exciting. We have him racing back at Texas, which obviously he dominated at Texas for years. We have him racing at Dover, another one of those racetracks, dominated at Dover. Kansas, another one of those tracks, those mile-and-a-half cookie-cutter type tracks where Jimmy Johnson's wheelhouse is going to be racing there. Charlotte, another one of those type of intermediate-style tracks, the Coca-Cola 600. He'll be racing in that. Kansas again, and then, of course, Las Vegas. So all intermediate-style tracks for Jimmy Johnson this year. Not quite the big events at least named yet. No road courses so far has been named for Jimmy Johnson that he will race. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I would like to see Johnson try to make the Daytona 500, for his team sponsorship-wise, but we'll see. If he tries to attempt that, we might get some news on that in the coming weeks. But we'll have to continue to track that. But it is exciting to see Jimmy Johnson racing the 84 car. It's exciting to see him back. And I really do think with the amount of talent he has, how quickly he was able to run decent in IndyCar, a different series, how good he was in NASCAR, an absolute legend, 7-time champion. I do believe him running these races and being in touch with the team, in touch with the new car, is going to be going to be an advantage to Legacy Motor Club. But let's switch over to Hendrick Motorsports, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about the entire Hendrick Motorsports team. We know Kyle Larson's good. We know Alex Bowman is mostly good. Didn't get a lot of wins over the last couple of seasons. Got injured the last 2 years, which sort of really hurt his year. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Alex Bowman can do moving forward. And we know Hendrick Motorsports is a solid team, one of the best teams in NASCAR history. But Chase Elliott is really going to be a point of conversation going into this season. After a disastrous year last year, I'm looking to see what he can do. I'm looking to see if he can be ready in Daytona. I'm looking to see how he does at Atlanta the following week. And then really I want to see how he does at those intermediate style racetracks. And I do think he will be fast. If you look at Chase Elliott and the way he was able to run for the entire season that he was in, the races that he didn't miss, he was actually very consistent, ran very well. There was a few instances where he was in contention for the win, a few road courses he was fast at. I know Daytona, Talladega, I think that last Daytona race he was leading with under 10 laps to go at one point. So Chase Elliott is obviously a household name in NASCAR, the most popular driver. I do expect him, with Alan Gustafson behind him, I do expect him to be able to move forward from last season, which was, like I said, a disastrous season. I do think he will come into this year ready to go. And I do think he will win a couple of races and obviously make the playoffs. That's my prediction for Chase Elliott this year. I would be disappointed if if he is still behind from everybody else with the new car, with the changing rules package, but I don't believe he will be. A driver of his caliber is really good. He's got Alan Gustafson. He's got Hendrick Motorsports behind him, Jeff Gordon behind him, all these exceptionally smart engineers. Shoot, I think he might be the favorite to win the Daytona 500. So with the way he runs at those types of tracks, so definitely going to be exciting to see if Chase Elliott can come back and get some wins this year. I wanted to throw him in there because he is the most popular driver. He did have a really bad year last year, and he's poised for a comeback. That's why I wanted to at least mention him in this video going into the new 2024 season. I do want to mention Josh Berry, which he's taking over Kevin Harvick's car, the 4 car, household name, NASCAR legend, 2014 champion, 60-time race winner, Kevin Harvick in the NASCAR Cup Series, exceptional driver. Josh Berry is filling in the shoes of the 4 car. But I'm a little bit concerned. I'm concerned for SHR. That means that the total win count for every driver at Stewart-Hass Racing is now 1. And that's Chase Briscoe a couple of years ago at Phoenix. So I'm concerned for this team. I like Josh Berry. I was impressed with what he did last season, filling in for other teams. But I want to. There's too much uncertainty with Josh Berry at this current time. I can't quite give a great prediction because Josh Berry, when given good equipment in the 9 car with crew chief, I talked about this with Chase Elliott, when put with the crew chief like Alan Gustafson, put in Hendrick Motorsports equipment, he did well. He did very well, but the driver and the team had already been working on those seasons, been tuning up the race cars for him. But I will give props to Josh Berry before I talk about what is the risk to this new move, this new decision, is that he doesn't cost himself a lot of mistakes. I didn't see him getting a lot of pit road speeding penalties. I didn't see him getting in any wrecks. He ran where he was supposed to or better, which is definitely a good sign. But what I want to see is can Josh Berry go into a team like Stewart-Hass, who's been struggling for a couple of seasons now, didn't win a single race in 2023. Can he go in there and help that accelerate that team? Can he create the speed on his own? Can he make the cars faster with giving feedback in practice, which is now limited practice, but can he give the feedback at certain types of racetracks and make the team better? That's what I want to see out of Josh Berry. I'm not a big Ford fan, but I'm pulling for Josh Berry in the long run because I think he has a lot of racing talent. We've heard Dale Jr. express his opinions on Josh Berry, how he's very talented. He used to drive for Junior Motorsports, and I think he's a very talented race car driver, but I want to see if he can go into an organization, and this is a fairly experienced driver on the older side. I want to see if he can go into a team that's obviously struggling right now and hoist him up. Can he help a guy like Chase Briscoe? Can he help a guy like Ryan Preece run better, which they did not have the best seasons this year, no doubt? What can that team look like moving forward? And I'm pulling for Josh Berry, and I want to see some success out of the 4-car for sure. As somebody who used to watch Kevin Harvick, I want to see success out of the 4-car. I think it can be done with Josh Berry in 2024. The teams I'm talking about, Legacy Motor Club, Stewart-Hass Racing, this is going to take a couple of years for them to regroup and come back. We saw sort of a slump with Hendrick Motorsports a few years ago, and now they're back to where they need to be. Can the drivers at Stewart-Hass Racing do that? And can John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, and Jimmy Johnson excel Legacy Motor Club to a good team and a solid, very consistent team, a championship contending team year in and year out? That's what I want to see. That's what I think can happen with these organizations. That's why I'm talking about them. It's less than 5 weeks now to the 2024 Daytona 500. We're a few weeks away from the Clash at the Coliseum. It should be exciting. I'll do a race review on all those races. I'm going to try to make a couple more videos before the season starts, but that's it. That's all I want to talk about today. And of course, let's get rowdy.